Good morning. Welcome to day 20 of Vlogtober. I can definitely see my breath. There is frost on the car. So fingernails. Yuck. This morning when I woke up, it was -8, but felt like -13. It is chilly in Moose Jaw. Although I'm gonna do that dry cold thing. It is actually a dry cold. In Toronto, when it is -8, you feel like your fingers are being bitten off. Here, it's actually not so bad. My mittens are in my blue container in my, with all my stuff. I could get them out, but that's okay. I think I can handle it. I'm just walking to the back of the hotel, and this is where our room overlooked last night. And there are these, last night they were green patches. Today, I don't know if you can see them or not, there are these white patches way over there. Those white patches were green last night. There is frost on the ground. It is definitely cold. Anyway, we are going to be driving from Moose Jaw to Golden, British Columbia today. We are going to be leaving the Saskatchewan Standard Time and going into the Mountain Time. But you know what? It's the exact same time. So at least there's not too much of a change that's going to mess with my mind today. But oh my gosh, my fingers are getting cold now. Anyway, I'm going to put this away. We are just packing up the last few things, and then we will be heading out for our drive. I think today it's nicer to be outside, but it's so cold. There'll be a little bit of car viewing, I'm hoping, but not much. You saw a lot of the prairies yesterday, so hopefully you'll see a little bit today, then some mountains, but I think I'm going to try and concentrate on my knitting. One thing I did do, and let me grab it, is I have transferred my knitting into an actual project bag. This is a beautiful project bag by Jules and Bryony of So Sweet Violet. Look at that gorgeous little bee. Love it. Anyway, I was thinking that maybe because it didn't really have a proper project bag, that's why it wasn't getting the love that it needed. So it now has a proper project bag. Anyway, we're gonna get the last few things in the car, get ready to go. I have made some tea. It is cold, I tell you. It is cold. Skies this morning are a beautiful clear blue, a little bit of a haze. Probably more to do with the weather than pollution. It is 9:11 in the morning, and today we have a 9.5-hour drive ahead of us. We will be in the car for a while with a couple of stops. Hopefully that means I'll get a good chunk of knitting done as we continue to drive across the flat prairies. Yesterday when I was driving, I was very, very careful about my speed because I did not want to get a speeding ticket. Fact, I have had one speeding ticket in my life, and it was while I was driving through Saskatchewan in 1997. I had just gotten married and I was going a little bit fast. Yes, I was not happy about getting that speeding ticket. So yesterday, I was driving the limit and just very cautious. As we are driving along the Trans-Canada, I'm noticing that the north of the Trans-Canada here, it's very much fields, crops, but just on the south side, the land is a lot more differentiated, and this is more dairy, cows, not as easy for growing food that grows from the ground, because of course cows are food that grow from the ground, sort of. Anyway, it's too early in the morning. You know what I'm trying to say. We are continuing along and we are in the grasslands. There are little pockets of water here, and again, the land is a little bit more unpredictable than the prairies we drove through yesterday. I'm seeing a lot more cows today, and I'm seeing patches of minerals, but the land is not as workable for grains as much of the rest of Saskatchewan. But definitely very interesting to look at. I'm not sure if it's just potash in this area or if the minerals include salt as well. I often see little patches that look like snow, but I just passed one that was a bit glistening, almost like salt, so I do wonder if there are salt deposits here as well. I'll have to look it up. But there are some windmills in the background as well. But nice to see some changes as we continue our drive. This morning I saw a few flocks of geese, not as many as I saw yesterday. The smart ones went yesterday. I didn't have the camera out in time though to catch a couple of swans. I saw about 6 swans that were also flying and getting together to fly south. Fun fact, as we continue our drive through Saskatchewan, Greg and I actually got married in Saskatchewan. In the back of the car I've got all of our important documents, and our marriage certificate from the Saskatchewan government is one of the things that is being carried with us rather than going with the moving truck. So a little connection to this province. Down the highway goes the little house on the prairie. We just saw an interesting sign for dill pickle beer, and Greg said, so gross and unique, you just have to try it. But it really does sound disgusting, dill pickle beer. Ugh. Up ahead is a really big grain elevator, and I even think I can see a train at it. And what has happened is, over the years, the smaller grain elevators in the smaller towns have closed down, and bigger grain elevators have opened up and replaced them. So the farmers that have to bring their grain to the larger grain elevators, and that has meant that some of those smaller towns have died a bit. But this one, just over this rise here, is really quite huge, and I'm hoping that we might get a really great sight of a train at it, and maybe even I don't know that we'll be able to see anything filling up, but hopefully you'll get a chance to see it a little bit more in action than you would have with the smaller grain elevators that we were looking at yesterday. Again, we are still cloudless today, still a bit hazy. We're now at 4 degrees Celsius, so as Greg would say, it's heating up. But there is the train stopped at the grain elevator, and this would be run by more of a corporation, I believe. SWT. Anyway, that is a modern grain elevator. After I stopped recording, Greg said, I wonder if you got the tumbleweed on that video. Apparently a tumbleweed went right in front of the car, so I'll have to look for that and see if it's there. Missed another one. Ah. We are continuing through the grasslands as we approach the Saskatchewan-Alberta border. We're not too far off now, but It has warmed up to 11 degrees now, so it is balmy. Almost bikini weather, not quite. Anyway, we are just looking out at the view. Seen some cows, but not much else. It's pretty quiet through here. There goes a tumbleweed. I hope you saw that one. I almost missed it. There is the Welcome to Alberta Wild Rose Country, and we are now in the Badlands. So we've gone from the grasslands in Saskatchewan to the Badlands in Alberta. One guess where we have stopped again. It is lunchtime. We are in Medicine Hat, and we needed some sandwiches. Just some light fare. And Tim Hortons is always good. I do have a steep tea. I'm going to start driving. There are a bunch of high school students that are holding up signs and creating awareness for SADD, S-A-D-D, which is Students Against Drunk Driving, and that's why all the honking horns are happening around us. So we are driving still. Scout is enjoying just a few minutes. She's worried about where Greg and Nathaniel have gone. They've gone inside to just take a quick break, and as I said, we're going to get back on the road, and I am going to do a little bit of driving, and then I can get back to my knitting, which is going a little bit better today. One thing to mention, it is now absolutely beautiful out. It is warm. I'm actually going to need to lose my polar fleece. I knew it was going to be cold this morning, so I ended up wearing my Love Note again, but over top of my long sleeve shirt today. When you're traveling across the country with a suitcase, you don't really have a huge wardrobe to choose from, so a couple pairs of jeans, a couple sweaters, some shirts to go underneath. Today, at least, I can lose the polar fleece for the afternoon and just enjoy the sunshine again. It's been very nice to have the sunshine as we've been driving. We are now driving through Alberta, and the terrain looks very, very similar, very flat. One thing I noticed about Saskatchewan is the colors that I saw mostly were, it felt like yellow and green. So far in Alberta, it just seems like a lot of yellow, and then to offset this gorgeous sky, yellow and blue. Well, there were beautiful skies in Saskatchewan as well. I did see a little bit more green as well. Along the side of the Trans-Canada Highway in Alberta, I am noticing lots of power lines. So while in Saskatchewan, it seemed that it was the trains that lined the tracks, here it is the power lines. We've got a Canada Post truck that is just passing me now. Good to know that Canada Post is, oh, two of them. Maybe they're delivering the forwarded mail from our house. Always a possibility. We are just pulled off on a highway pull-off, and I can see that there is a still attached tumbleweed right here. So what would happen is this would unattach, and then it dries out, rolls across the highway in front of me, and now I'm just on the search for tumbleweeds. So I wanted to pick one up, and I wanted to run across the prairie with it, but unfortunately this one's still attached, and I don't have the heart to pull it out. But there we go. A still alive tumbleweed. We are definitely in Alberta. There are some oil wells in this field here as we continue to drive along. And without Googling it, can anybody actually remember who shot JR? Was it Sue Ellen, or was it all a bad dream? I just can't remember. But right now, oil wells are working in Alberta. There are some Canadian geese that have landed in this pond there, and I guess a lot of them are coming to rest for the afternoon or maybe even the night. It is almost 3 o'clock, so they're probably finding a nice place to rest for the evening. And we're just going along and looking at the fields. Lots of oil wells and cows, and this is what Alberta's famous for. Oil and their beef. I have found all the tumbleweeds. I am so excited. Look at this. Let me turn the camera around so I can see. Look at this. I have found all of the tumbleweeds. This has been my goal today, is to catch a tumbleweed. What I really want to do, my gosh, the wind is blowing. What I really want to do is I want to run across the prairies, all across there, with my tumbleweed, saying, yes, I have captured a tumbleweed. And there it goes, tumbling away. There are a bunch of them in here, but that one there, that lovely tumbleweed, that is Tracy's tumbleweed. Greg is explaining the difference between cow and cattle to me. I just keep calling all of the cows cows, and you keep saying?
Cattle.
And what's the difference, Greg?
Cattle, they're raising them for meat, and cows, they are used for dairy, for milking.
And these ones out here are?
Cattle.
So, I have been corrected. Greg had mentioned that one thing I would notice in Alberta is that there don't seem to be many fences, and we are going along a stretch here that there aren't any fences here. There are a couple fences on the other side, but for the most part, not too many fences. Thankfully, there is a fence here because there's a cow in that field, and there is a cattle in that field, and we don't want that cattle to come across the road. I have been corrected again. Cattle is plural, which I did know that. I would have said cow, but I was told it's either steer or bull, not cow, and only one, not cattle, because that would be just not enough. So I am learning all about cattle, cows, steers, bulls. Who knew that this trip would be so educational? Greg is now explaining to me that a steer or a bull is male, but a female is a what?
A heifer or a cow.
A heifer or a cow. So if that was a cow, or if it was a field full of female cattle, they would still be cows?
Then they would be cows.
Then they'd be cows. It's so confusing. My gosh. Farmers are brilliant, because I wouldn't be able to tell the difference. And apparently Greg is brilliant too. Aren't you? I think you're brilliant.
I can't see that well. I would never be able to tell you which one it was.
You'd have to go up close?
Yes,
and that would be,
you can't see.
And that'd be really dangerous to go up close, especially to a bull. Although you might be able to tell, like, he's got horns.
They would have horns.
Yeah, you'd be able to tell from far away, hopefully.
Although
you might be running from it.
They cut the horns off. They cut the horns off because you get gored.
Oh, okay. You'd get gored. Anyway, we continue our drive, and now, I don't know, oh, and those are calves because they're baby cows, correct?
Yes.
I'm learning. Apparently, my lack of farming knowledge comes from the fact that I didn't watch the same TV shows as Greg watched. I just figured it's because Greg's family were a little bit more involved in farming than I was, or my family was. So yeah, I watched The Love Boat, apparently Dallas, because we wanted to find out who shot JR. Yeah, I watched Donnie and Marie, stuff like that. You watched what, Greg? The Lord?
Ponderosa.
Ponderosa? I mean, we all watched Little House on the Prairie, I think. but I didn't learn anything about cows, cattle, horses. I just saw an animal in there. I said, oh, there's a donkey. And I said, I got it right. Didn't I, Greg? And he said, was it a donkey or a mule? How do I know these things? I didn't watch the same TV shows. I do think those are goats over there, though. Those are goats. I am correct there. One right.
Not sheep.
They weren't sheep. They weren't sheep. Sheep have wool. Goats do not. We are now in view of Calgary. In fact, we've been in view for a little bit, but it is kind of hazy out, and I wanted to get a little bit closer so that you could definitely see the skyline. The buildings seem a little bit taller than the ones that we saw in Regina and Winnipeg. And I'm not sure if you can see the skyline or not, but it is ahead. We are going to be doing a bit of a detour around the city. Not so much a detour, but a bypass around the city. And continuing to head towards British Columbia. We still have about 3 hours, 17 more minutes, according to the sat-nav, on our journey today. We'll be getting into the foothills soon and then into the mountains. It is 4:15 now, and it will be probably getting dark around 6, so I'm not quite sure how much I'll be able to film tonight when we're in the mountains, and I think it's really important to be looking out for wildlife as we're driving through the mountains, but I will show you what I can for now. We are just north of Calgary City Centre, and there is a bypass that we took, so we were able to avoid rush hour traffic through Calgary. I hope that you can see the skyline. It is a little bit hazy out, so it does make it a little challenging to see, but there is the city of Calgary. We have just gotten through Calgary, and the terrain around us still looks very flat, but we are approaching the foothills and the mountains. Sometimes it's a little bit deceptive whether they are clouds or mountains or foothills, but I do believe that I am seeing more hills than clouds right now. We have just come up over the rise of the plains, and I see mountainous terrain in the background. I actually even see white on some of those mountain tops. In the distance, it is very hazy looking, but it looks very, very beautiful. We are on our way towards Banff right now, and once we are through Banff, we will cross into British Columbia. We will have a time change, and once we have that time change, we will be in the Pacific time zone. So right now we're in the Mountain time zone, and soon we will be in Pacific. But in the distance, I see changes ahead. I am just looking in this field here, and I see 4 or 5. I see a bunch of deer. There are a lot of deer, actually, baby deer. Oh my gosh, it's a whole herd of deer. Did you see them, Nathaniel?
Yeah.
In each of the provinces, I have shown you the deer signs, and there is the deer sign for Alberta. And we are starting to get some really pretty views now. Mountains ahead. We are now more in rolling terrains. Greg and I were saying that the sides of the roads kind of remind us a little bit of Ontario with the big trees, but with the mountainscape in front, maybe not so much Ontario there. But this is our current view, and it is looking really, really pretty. I did see that there was a lake down in a bit of a valley over there, and I was wondering whether it will be anything like Banff or Lake Louise, where it will have a beautiful blue coloring to it, like a turquoise coloring. Hopefully at some point we'll see something like that, either tonight or tomorrow. But for now, we continue our journey and admiring the gorgeous views that the province of Alberta and soon the province of British Columbia will be offering us. And yes, that is snow on those mountain tops. It is so hard not to pull out the camera every time we go over a rise because it is so beautiful. I was just noticing the trees on the side. I believe they are short little birch trees, and the leaves on those trees are completely gone. So evergreens, birch trees, and big mountains. We are now in the foothills and we are heading into the Rocky Mountains. It is quite beautiful and very picturesque, and I hope that you will enjoy the drive. We do need to be careful for wildlife because it is starting to get a little bit darker, and wild animals do like to come out in this terrain. And actually here is a deer sign just warning us to be careful. We are just entering Canmore right now, and we are still in the foothills, but ahead of us are mountains, and you can see snow on the peaks of those mountains. Very beautiful. Every corner you turn is another breathtaking view. We're hoping to stop soon for gas and let Puppy out for a little piddle break and stretch our legs as well, and that'll give me a chance, hopefully, to capture some of the beautiful scenery outside. It is currently 12 degrees, so still quite pleasant, I think, and just keeping an eye out for wildlife so that we can drive safely as we head towards Golden. We are just going into Canmore to get some gas, and this is a really meters, turn right onto pretty town. Our sat-nav is not very happy with us because we've taken a diversion, and she wants us to go one way, but we want to top up with gas before we leave the province. It's absolutely gorgeous through Canmore, very touristy looking. We were hoping that the gas station, we had put it into the sat-nav, and then when we got to the gas station, it was closed. There were no tanks, so we've now put a new destination for gas in, and she's going to direct us as we drive. But beautiful scenery, beautiful architecture through here, and I think at some point we will need to come back here again. Trying to get gas was a bit of a fail, so we are just going to continue on our way. We've got enough to get us through to tomorrow, but we just thought it might be wise to fill up tonight. But that was not in the cards. So we are continuing back on Highway 1 and heading towards Banff, which will then have us head towards Golden after that. So we've got about an hour 59 more minutes according to my friend, and we'll just keep driving. Kind of like keep on swimming, we're gonna keep on driving, keep on driving. Watch for animals and keep on driving. We are just about to drive into Banff National Park, and this area, very much like Algonquin, is a large area that has the highway going through it, and if you were to stop by, you could do trails. There's going to be plenty of wildlife, bears, deer. This big sign overhead, Banff National Park. We are now entering the park. We are now driving through Banff National Park. Greg just said, that's a mountain. That is a mountain, as is the one ahead of us. Just alongside the roadway here is a set of railway tracks, or maybe it's just one railway track, and I guess it's a lot easier to run a road and a rail through the same area rather than having a couple. There's a few bicyclists out for a nice sporting evening, but lots to see and do in Banff National Park. I'm wondering if the Via Rail, that is our national passenger rail, runs the passenger train through this section. I would imagine it does, but if so, and if you ever decide to take a rail trip across Canada, you will see sights just a little bit to the left of where I am now. We have just stopped for a moment in Banff National Park. The dog needs a little bit of a break. We need a little bit of a break, a little bit of a stretch. Breathing in the fresh mountain air. Look at that glorious view behind me. It is beautiful. And it's about 10 degrees Celsius, so a little warmer than when we woke up this morning. But yeah, it's fresh. Definitely very fresh. What do you think of the view, Nathaniel?
I like it.
You like it? So we are still in Alberta, and we've got a little bit more to go before we get to the British Columbia border. We're just gonna, as I said, take a quick break and then get back on the road and continue driving. But what a glorious view. And I hope you've been enjoying the views today. And I'm just gonna actually turn you around so you can see. Oh, the streams and rivers are beautiful. I bet you though they would be ice cold. And yeah, what a view. You just what a view. We are being directed to take an alternate route. So I am sure that our sat nav is not going to be very happy with us.
In 300 meters,
this is the way that we are being told to go by the highway system. So alternate route, we're going to definitely need to be very careful going through here because I don't think it will be as well maintained.
Proceed on Banff Windermere Highway.
Yeah, now it's given up. It says, okay, you're not listening to me, so, just go whatever way you want. We are just about to approach the Continental Divide. And I think that might have been it. And we are now actually leaving Banff. And entering Kootenay. Yes, you just saw that. Crazy, crazy drivers. And look at this. We are now leaving Alberta, and welcome to British Columbia. Welcome to our new home province. And the license plates say beautiful British Columbia, and I have to say, I concur. We were hoping to be off the road before it got dark, but unfortunately we are still on the road, and because of the detour, we're on a much smaller road. We are in a moose crossing area, so we are trying to be as careful as possible. But I gotta tell you, it's kind of nerve-wracking driving at this time of night and knowing that it's not necessarily the safest route. to be taking. I have to tell you, I am on edge. They closed the #1 highway, and then we had to take Highway 93, and then now we have to take 95, or maybe it's the reverse order. I don't know. There are these big, huge transport trucks going down this small highway, and we are still about an hour and a bit away from Golden. We did need to stop for gas, which is Greg's doing that now. We are in Radium Springs. So I am going to sign off for the night because we just have a little bit more driving to do. When we get to our hotel for the night, I want to edit, and I just need to relax for a little bit. That was intense. I think it would have been an absolutely amazing thing to do the scenic route during the day on our own sort of volition, but being forced off the highway, and I think that also lengthened our trip. A little bit nerve-wracking. Anyway, I am wishing you all the best. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Tomorrow we are driving from Golden to Vancouver, so the last leg of our final journey. Our house closed in Toronto today, so currently we are homeless. We are between houses, but on Friday we will get possession of our new home, and I am so excited to share that with you. Anyway, wishing you all the best and hope to see you tomorrow. Bye. Right in the center of Radium, there is an elk crossing the road. I don't know if you can see it, but there is an elk just walking right across the road. I feel like I'm Northern Exposure. Yeah, look, there is an elk across the street. So we're going to definitely need to be very careful as we drive towards Golden. But I don't know if you can see it. He's just about to go underneath. Oh my goodness. There he is, just across the street. And off he goes into the wild.